Phone. All right. I'll touch that later. Okay. And turn on the sound. All right. Woohoo. I think one screen is on. The other screen is not. What has happened here? There we go. All right. Okay. Not at all a stressful day. Only took me 2 hours to get here today. Fun times. All right, so Friday, before the snow came, we were talking about deviance and crime, right? And we ended off kind of talking about interactionist theories and functionalist theories and how they understand how things become kind of criminal, what the purpose of crime and deviance is in society. So, I mean, this question, I guess, was left over from last time, maybe, is removing the label of deviance not destigmatizing? I mean, I suppose it would be for the purposes of, kind of deviance and crime and like criminology. We're more interested in the question of, does removing it, like not labeling something as deviant suddenly makes it sort of permissible, right? So, and suddenly not deviant because nothing in itself is deviant until it is defined as such. Bless you. Okay, so we ended off, I think, talking about Emil Durkheim and all the fun he puts into functionalism. Durkheim, I think we ended off talking last class about the fact that Durkheim had a very particular notion of deviance and crime, right? He had this notion that crime ultimately was kind of good for society because it allowed people to know where the boundaries were, right? If you had someone who was committing crime, then you could punish them, right? And in that punishment, and especially when punishment was done socially, right? When it was done out in the town square rather than in the prison, it allowed everyone to reaffirm where the boundaries of behavior were in a society. So you could say, this is permissible, this is not permissible. We know because we threw vegetables at that guy who stole a horse, right? So that is where we ended off. Okay. One of the major theories when it comes to deviance and crime comes from functionalism, and it comes from Merton. So, we remember Merton, he had his latent and manifest functions. Same person, so sometimes it's referred to just as strain theory, sometimes it's referred to as Merton's strain theories because people have taken it in other directions. But strain theory is one way of trying to explain in a kind of functionalist sense why people go and commit crimes. This looks very good on my screen. Oh, it looks fine up there. On this computer screen, I can barely read the white words. Okay, so why do people turn to crime according to strain theory? Well, basically, they do it because they experience strain, right? And strain is what happens when fundamentally people are unable to get what they think they have been promised by the culture, right? In terms of material success and legitimate opportunities to succeed, right? So basically the idea is, right, that there is this kind of social script in society that says, it's not something like if you work hard, like let's say for Canada or the US, if you work hard, you apply yourself, you get a university or college degree, you get married, you have 2 kids or whatever, 2 kids and a dog, 1 kid and 3 dogs, whatever combination makes you happy, right? That you should gain material wealth, right? You should have the lifestyle that you want, right? 2 cars, a house, whatever, a tropical vacation once every couple of years, and so on and so forth, right? And that you should have legitimate opportunities, right, to get great jobs and all of that fun stuff. And what Merton basically kind of thinks is that in reality, society can never keep all of those promises to everyone, right? Not everyone is going to have the chance to succeed and get that material wealth or those opportunities that the kind of cultural narrative says they should have. And so when they don't, they experience strain, right? Suddenly their expectation knocks up against reality and they feel a sort of stress. And when that happens, they may turn to deviance or crime as a way of redressing the kind of balance, right? Because if you can't get the material wealth by, working at your full-time job, well, then maybe you can get it selling meth, right? Or something like that, right? You can get it by robbing banks or embezzling funds from your employer or, committing credit card fraud or whatever it happens to be. But fundamentally, that's what strain theory says, is that people will turn to crime when they can't get things legitimately. Would the increase in COVID pandemic support strain theory? So quite a few people have kind of posited that, especially that the jump in crime was correlated with economic decline, right? So anytime you see economic declines, like whether it's the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, I think I did that this morning. I'm pretty sure I put it on this morning because I forgot on Friday. But anytime you see like 2008, 2009 financial crisis, right, where a lot of people lost jobs and the economy was really slow recovering, that crime will go up because suddenly people can't get materially what they think they should through legitimate means. And COVID would be another example of that, right? Obviously, when everything shut down and everybody suddenly, maybe there wasn't an easy way to get access to the material goods that you wanted, then, you might turn to crime in order to get it. So I think that would roughly fit strain theory. Okay. Oh, yes. Merton's strain theory of deviance in 5 squares. Okay, so this is always one I think people find a little bit confusing, so I'll explain it the best I can. I will say, definitely know this stuff because there's so many ways I can turn this into an exam question that it's not even funny. I can give you little stories and ask you which one of these spots a person belongs on. It'll be great fun. You'll have a good time. You will not, actually. I will have a good time. You will have to answer test questions. Okay, so Merton's strain theory basically says that, roughly speaking, people can sort of fall into 5 categories, right? And Merton kind of puts this on this grid between institutional means and cultural goals, right? Okay, so what would cultural goals be, right? So these are these things like, wanting the material benefits of that your society offers. So let's say, like, stereotypically, this is, people want to have a house, right? They want to have a car. They want to probably either get married or partner up with someone, maybe have children, and that's, and afford a nice lifestyle, right? So that would be kind of the normal cultural goal, right? Material wealth in some way. And that's, in some sense, what most people are working towards, right? They want good jobs so that they can get good education so they can get good jobs so they can have, a comfortable life materially. All right, so that's cultural goals. Institutional means is a little different, right? So institutional means is what would be the normal way that society says you should go about acquiring those things that you want, right? So let's say we're talking about Canada, right? If you want to get that material wealth, the normal means that the society tells you should undertake to do that is to do what you're doing now, right? You go to university, you get a degree, you then apply for jobs, that hopefully use your skills, and you get a nice job, you work, you get married or partner up with someone, buy a house, have a couple of kids, and all of these things, right? And that's how you get, that's the normal institutional way that you would go about getting these things. So, with that said, Merton basically thinks that people can fall into 4 main categories and 1 sort of subcategory, right? All right, so, excuse me, as the air gets dry, I feel like my lungs want to die. So, and the top one is conformity, right? So top left-hand corner or right-hand corner, depends. The blue one, let's say the blue one. Conformity is you accept the institutional means, right? So you go through life and you do all the right things, right? You are, you go to university, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you follow all the normal means that society tells you should lead to success. Because you are chasing, you have also accepted the cultural goals that what you should want out of life is that material wealth, right? That house, that car, those tropical vacations, and all that stuff that stereotypically we all seem to sort of want. Okay, so that's, what we call conformity, right? So the person is conforming both to the cultural goals and the institutionalized means. Now, if someone conforms to the cultural goals, right? So you want to get rich or wealthy enough to have a comfortable lifestyle, but instead of following that cultural script, right, you do something different, right? So maybe there's a couple ways that this can happen, right? So maybe you are like Bill Gates and you drop out of college, and instead of going and getting the university degree, you just go and you start your own company in Phoenix, Arizona, and then move it to Seattle because it's cloudy in Seattle and you think people will want to spend less time outside, so they'll work harder. Actual story of how Microsoft ended up in Redmond. It's like, Seattle kind of sucks. The weather's horrible. Let's move there. People won't want to go outside, so they'll work more. Bill Gates is a nice guy. But he quit college, didn't get a degree, just went off and founded a company, and was still after that cultural goal, so we could put that in the realm of innovation. The other thing you could put in the realm of innovation, I guess would be something like, from a fictional example, would be someone like Walter White from the series Breaking Bad, right? It's like, I want to be rich, but I don't really, I've given up on the normal way of getting it, so he cooks meth, right? Drug dealers, criminals would also typically fall in this realm of innovation, right? Because instead of following that institutional means, like that normal way of getting wealthy, you follow a different means, right? You create your own path, in a sense, to success, right? Still after that cultural goal, you still want to be rich, but you find a different way to do it. Okay, that's red square. Green square. Ritualism, right? Okay, so here, basically, people are in a weird sort of space. You can think of ritualism as kind of going through the motions, right? This would be someone who, for whatever reason, doesn't want to get rich, doesn't want to marry, doesn't want to do all the things that we think are stereotypical signs of success. Maybe they've given up because they don't feel like they can actually get it. But, so for whatever reason, right, they're no longer chasing the goal of the kind of success that society tells them they should have. But they don't stop with the institutional means, right? So this person would still probably have a job, probably, I would guess, a dead-end job, something that they're not really going to enjoy. And they would continue kind of going through the motions of how most people live their lives, right? Go to work, go home, pay your bills, but never really have any drive to get ahead or to follow that kind of cultural goal at the end of the day. And we call this ritualism, right? Because the ritual is just kind of going through the motions, right? Okay, that's green square. Yellow square, retreatism. And this is basically, the 35-year-old who still lives in their parents' basement and spends their whole day playing Call of Duty. Or something, right? Like basically they're not following that cultural goal, they're not attempting to succeed, and they're not following that that institutional means either. So they're not doing anything, right? They've basically pulled out of society altogether, and they're just, basically probably bitter and resentful, but they've retreated from all of the normal things that people do. So they don't have a job, or if they do, it's menial, and they don't have, they're not chasing normal cultural goals. So they're in retreat. All right, so that's yellow square. Purple square, you can almost think of as, you can think of it as revolutionaries, right? So revolutionaries would fall in this kind of category, right? It's like, I reject entirely the cultural, both the institutional means and the cultural goals, but instead of just kind of sitting in this space where you're not doing anything, well, now you're pursuing new goals, right? So if you're thinking history of kind of the 20th century, the Bolsheviks, right, in Russia would potentially be in this category of rebellion, right? They're like, we're going to overthrow the capitalist order and the bourgeoisie, kill them, and establish, communism in this country. And then, so their goal is, recreate the world, and the means would be, probably in this case through violent revolution. So it looks like rebellion. The other thing that can exist in this purple space is madness, right? Basically people who, for whatever reason, their sense of the world is completely different from normal people's or from the average. And so they look at the world and they have completely different goals and completely different means that they want to achieve them. And to the people in, the blue square, the red square, the green square, and the yellow square, it looks like madness, right? It looks like you can't even understand what they're doing. That's why that purple square is kind of off on its own completely. All right, before I go there, I want to... Can I elaborate on the chart more? I don't know, can I? I spent like 20 minutes on that chart. If you have a specific question about one of them, let's go with that. Yeah, all right. Purple square, like Tyler Durden from Fight Club. That's a deep reference. I'm trying to think. I'm like, it's been like 10 years since I've seen that movie. Yes, I think so. I'm assuming Tyler Durden is the Brad Pitt character who's like, yeah, anyway, I'm like, yes. I'm going to go with yes. Can I just say yes? You're all very nice. Or that person is. I don't know. The rest of you are terrible. No. That one person who said a nice thing is good. The rest of you, no. Would the mafia fall under innovation? Yes. I would say the mafia falls under innovation, right? Because instead of the normal means, right, you're not going to go to college if you're, well, you might go to college if you're in the mafia, but the way that you're going to achieve what you want is crime, right? Dealing drugs or running booze from Canada during Prohibition, right? This is how you would do things that way. Anarchists, I would say anarchists definitely fall in that rebellion square. So would, libertarians, I think in a lot of ways, kind of fall into that square too. Because they're like, we're not following your ways. I'm trying to think of what libertarians actually believe. I'm drawing a blank. Another example for ritualism. Where would criminal activity fall? So criminal activity more falls typically in the red, right? Because most criminals are at least to some extent trying to get material wealth of some kind, right? Just not through the approved means. Oh, so sorry, you were asking about ritualism? Was that ritualism? Another example for ritualism. Oh, let me think. I mean, I'm always thinking like the dead end job is kind of for ritualism. I mean, okay. I mean, another one for like ritualism that you can probably imagine would be, if one of these cultural goals is to have a family, right? That's sort of what the culture says. This might be someone who, kind of rejects this cultural goal, but for whatever reason still like goes out on dates, right? Maybe they still are on Tinder, that hive of scum and villainy. Or, they still go through the motions of like what you would sort of do if you wanted to meet someone, even though fundamentally they're not that interested in the actual process of having a family, right? They're going through the kind of ritual of dating and, seeing someone for a bit, but they've kind of rejected that cultural goal. So they go through the motions. It just never really goes anywhere. I don't know if that helps. Wrong way. So like a single childless 50-year-old. Okay, sure. I think that works. My sister. No, I'm kidding. She's not 50 yet. So a finance bro would be in the green square. What is a finance bro? You're gonna have to define that one for me. Like, what is a finance of rebellion, and maybe describe it more? Okay, okay. I think I talked about that. I cleared something. Something moved. All right. Okay. I don't know your SpongeBob reference. I'm sorry. Um, People who watch Wolf of Wall Street and see Jordan Belfort as the good guy, I think. Okay, that I've seen the movie, but that doesn't tell me any more than Finance Bro. So we're gonna sure, why not? I don't know if I need a better definition. More Breaking Bad analogies. That's all I got for Breaking Bad analogies. Okay, I think I did that. Ritualism is when he's writ. It moved on me. Men in business or econ. I mean, that again doesn't tell me that much. Okay, rebellion. Hang on, Belfort, Jordan Belfort, Gus Fring. I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. Sometimes, yes, the Joker. Oh, that's a great example. The Joker, the Dark Knight Joker. That is definitely rebellion, right? And anyone who's kind of, yeah, like that anarchic kind of, this is what does Alfred say in The Dark Knight. It's like some men just want to see, don't care about money. They just want to see the world burn. That's the Joker. That's rebellion, right? Like overturning the rules of society, and his means is just generating chaos, right? That's his means. His new means is just destroy things, and his goal is cause chaos, right? So he's in rebellion, right? And that's why he's crazy. That's why the Joker appears crazy to everyone, right? Because nothing, he gets that pile of money in The Dark Knight and he lights it on fire. He didn't care about money, right? He just wants to destroy things. That's his whole thing. If someone wants to start a cult, is that innovation or rebellion? I guess it depends on what they're trying to get out of their cult. If they want to create a whole new society, then yeah, I think that's more rebellion. If they're just trying to fleece people of their money, then that would be a different story. Not all cults are the same. Okay, finance bros are men in business. What? To clarify, rebellion can also be a good thing, right? I mean, the Bolsheviks certainly thought their rebellion was a good thing. There's nothing either. Let's quote some Shakespeare. There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Okay. Finance bros. Why would Walter White be? I don't think Walter White is rebellion. I think Walter White would be, he'd be in the red square, not the purple square. Because he's still after money, right? Money and power, which are sort of cultural goals. He's just rejected the normal way of doing it. He's not trying to overturn society, right? Walter White just wants the same things you and me want, but he wants to do it by cooking meth. So he's definitely not anything different. Okay. I'll watch that later. Spends all their money and time on useless stocks and will let everyone know that they do. They like to spread stupid inspirational quotes. Okay. I don't know how to. I'm sorry. I don't know how to classify finance bros. I'll do some deep research over the next couple days to figure out what you're talking about. Okay. I have only watched a little bit of Breaking Bad because I literally have a character flaw. And my character flaw is if everyone else likes it, I don't. And so I've never watched Game of Thrones. No. I've never really watched The Sopranos because everyone liked it. I've only seen 2 of the Harry Potter movies because everyone was like, they're so amazing. And I'm like, I hate it. I hate them all. We all have our character flaws. Mine is that I'm a vicious anti-conformist. So when people were like, have you seen Breaking Bad? I'm like, no, and I never will. So I only know the plot outline from reading about Breaking Bad in TV studies journals. I am trying to be quick. You know what? Talk to my wife, and she'll confirm this 100%, because she's like, hey, I heard about this great show that everyone's talking about. And I'm like, you know what that means? We can't ever watch it. Oh. Yeah, I'm defining cultural goals like the American dream in a different kind of social setting, right? It could be anything, right? Like in, a different country, right? Maybe it's not exactly the same. Maybe it's having, 12 wives. I don't know. Like different cultures will have different cultural goals and different institutional means. It would be very different based on where you are, but that would be, it will change based on where you are. I'm just defining it for like our society, right? Everybody wants the good life. Everybody wants the Mexican vacation and that sort of stuff. I've only ever been to Mexico once because I am a vicious nonconformist. I'm just a jerk. I just don't want to be like other people. All right. I should have my own square. I am the purple square, guys. Or maybe I could be like a square or a snob. Yeah, that could be it too. Kanye or Taylor Swift. Can I have Mozart? I'll take Mozart. I'm not answering your question. Oh, but why? No, not Kanye. I see in that equation I have to go with Taylor Swift because anti-Semitic psychopaths are not really my speed. Okay, typical cultural goals. Yeah, okay, I answered that. Can I please explain retreatism? Yeah, sure, I can actually talk about the course material instead of my dislike for popular shows. Retreatism, right, is like you're not doing the things you need to do, right? So you don't want to get rich, you don't want to have a family, and you don't want to have a job, right? So it's like whatever you're doing, you've pulled completely back. So this could look like, I don't know, it could be the guy who lives in the woods, right? Like the hippies who go off and live off the grid are technically in retreatism, right? Because they're like, we don't want any of what society and capitalism offers. We're going to live off the land, eat nothing but moss and deer meat. I'm assuming this is what hippies do. I don't really know. Moss and deer meat, and be, get off the corporate kind of treadmill, right? This would be another form of retreatism, right? Because it's not like we want to live as part of society and want what society wants. It's like you reject what society wants and you reject how society would want it, but you're not trying to overthrow kind of society. You're just like, we're going to live by our own rules on our hippie commune somewhere and grow moss and mushrooms and hunt deer. I actually had a friend whose parents were exactly these people, and I'm kind of joking, but literally they lived like out in the woods in BC, and like she was like weirded out by commercial beef because she's like, all I ever ate growing up was moose. And I was like, oh, how strange. And yeah, I met her parents, and they were very much like, we just wanted to get off the grid. And that's like retreatism. Like they didn't want to be on the corporate treadmill, all that fun stuff. All right, I am not trying. I am succeeding. Sorry. Okay. Will you have a formula sheet for midterm 2? Yes, but only mathematical formulas are allowed. So everything has to be expressed in mathematical terms. No, I'm kidding. No formula sheets. Okay, I re-explained that. Yeah, okay, I said that too. Wow, a lot of questions. This is a hard chart, though. What really is innovation? It's wanting the things that everyone else wants, but going your own way. Would serial killers be... Oh my gosh. In the main course content, are furries part of the red square? See, now you guys are just being mean to me. I don't know, actually. Can we say, I don't know what furries want, actually. A deep investigation of this subculture is called for. Are recluses an example of retreatism? I would say so. Serial killers, I would say serial killers, yeah, they're probably more in that rebellion phase because they see the world in totally different ways. All right. I think I need to move on. Does rebellion consist of trying to overthrow the current way of doing things? Typically, yes. Okay. Means cultural goals are subjective, so would this chart be different for everyone? Hey, you point the way. It might be, but I think you would follow a general kind of social script, right? Like, what do most people in society want? How is a society structured and organized to kind of organize people's lives? Right? Like, most people in a society want X, right? They want, if you think of most people, what is the path most people think they want to walk, right? It used to be, right, 2 kids, and like of getting married, having 2 kids, having a house in the suburbs and a car or a couple cars and all that jazz. I think now it's like having fur babies or whatever people call them, pets. I love it when people call them fur babies. I don't know why. It just makes me giggle. Your dog is a fur baby. And the first time I honestly heard the term pet parent, I just about fell off my chair. All right, so formula sheet. But yeah, they could be slightly different for every person. Okay. It's like a guy who goes on to go on dates. Yes, that's ritualism, right? Ritualism is 9 to 5, but you're working at McDonald's, right? Like, and you never, that promotion comes up. You could be assistant manager at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and instead of like legitimately trying to get the job, you basically try to blow the interview because you really don't want the extra responsibility, but you keep going, right? Now, this did not work for me. When I actually tried to get the assistant manager job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, I failed. And then the day I was actually going to quit, they pulled me in for an interview for one, and I completely blew it off and was totally like cavalier. And then they promoted me, and then I remained there for another 1.5 years. Which was very odd, because I was in ritualism at that point. Okay, yes. Working 9 to 5, but you don't go for the promotion. Okay, I think we're good. I think I need to move. Are ritualistic people depressed, or can they be content? They can be content, right? They just may not want to follow the script. All right, forward. Subcultures. So a subculture, often we have subcultures that are deviant, right? So basically, a subculture is just a group with a set of distinct values, norms, and practices within the larger culture. But you can get sort of deviant subcultures as well that depart from mainstream culture in many ways, but within their own kind of groups are strict conformists. Right, when it comes to the norms of their own subcultures. The number one example of a deviant subculture that looks like this are gangs. Gangs are essentially deviant subcultures, but so they deviate, they'll deviate from a lot of the norms of society, right? Where your norms would say, don't commit crimes, right? Don't get into trouble, don't hurt people. They would all, don't sell drugs because it's bad. Even if you're bald and grow a beard and are a chemistry teacher, you cannot make it look cool because you're not Bryan Cranston. So yeah, deviants. They're deviant in a lot of the things that they value, but within their own groups, they're often ridiculously controlling and conformist, right? Gangs will police particular behaviors and particular ways of being, often violently. People who attempt to leave gangs often find it very, very difficult to do so, right? Because once you've been inducted into that particular subculture, you have to follow the norms. All right, I got a clip here from Riverdale, and I really shouldn't, but I will. Because this is a very stylized notion of what a gang looks like. And I have to make at least one Riverdale reference per semester. I don't know why. Those are the rules. I didn't make them up. This is obviously like from the first season before the show got completely ridiculous. In the second season, or maybe the third, which I did watch the show, but only to laugh at it because it got so bad. And because my wife kind of liked it, and I have to give her something now and then. So Riverdale, right? Jughead is trying to join this gang, and you'll hear they're laying out the norms and values of the gang and all that stuff.
Now it's time for the next trial. A dream. A knife.
Rattlesnake Tony. Rattlesnake bitten in True Blood.
One that had its venom glands removed. Okay.
All right. So, right, you see they're laying out the laws of being in this imaginary gang in the very bad CW show that for some reason I've watched everything but the last episode of. because I just can't quit it. Okay, so criminal subcultures and justification. When we get to criminal subcultures, often, right, they kind of twist reality, right? They see things through very peculiar lenses. So a bunch of the times, what you see is that a lot of subcultures, especially deviant ones, and criminal ones, will look at their own members and deny personal responsibility for actions. Often, blaming the collective or society for the fact that, they ended up committing deviant behavior. Denying the wrongfulness of acts is also quite common, right? Why was I stealing that television or that iPhone from the store? It's not really wrong, right? The store has insurance, right? Or Walmart can afford for me to go in and steal anything I can put in a shopping cart. It's not really wrong because the system is stacked against me and I can do, and therefore I'm justified in doing whatever I should do. It's not my fault, right? It's the system that made me do it, right? I'm only a criminal because XYZ, right? You often see this in criminal subcultures. Denouncing anyone who passes judgment on them, right? That these people are part of the system or they're part of the oppressive system that holds them down. You see this often in criminal subcultures who justify their behavior and basically, pass judgment on people who judge them. The victims got what they deserved. The victims got what they deserved. Really that person was asking for it, walking down the street, not holding their purse well, you're just asking for it to be stolen. Your house was so nice, that I just had to get in there and look around. This is actually a really funny thing. I don't know if it's funny. I find it funny, but I've been immersed in criminology literature too much in the last few years. It's like you often see in criminal subcultures that criminals will break into somewhere and be like, well, it was such a nice house. I just wanted to look around and see what it was like. And while I was there, I saw this thing and I just took it, right? Okay, it's a 60-inch plasma TV, but whatever. It requires a little bit of effort. Often, these criminal subcultures come with their own sorts of justifications for why they're doing things, right? Sometimes it's appealing to higher loyalties, right? I am doing this thing because I'm part of this gang, right? And so, yes, it's fine for me to violate the rules of society or hurt people because my true loyalty is maybe it's to my family, right? I'm Jean Valjean. I stole a loaf of bread to feed my starving niece, right? Or, I did it because my highest loyalty is actually to my gang and society sucks anyway because it's kept me down all this time. You see that often in criminal subcultures. Is my own subculture Riverdale? Definitely not. Yes, I don't know what modern Vikings is. I'm not cool. Yes, sorry, Jean Valjean. His prisoner number was 24601 in the book Les Miserables and in the musical. So there were deep cuts on my deep musical theater kind of references there. Can I say institutional means and cultural goals? And cultural, I answered this question already. And can a subculture be hobbies, darts? There can be a subculture around certain sports, but it's very rarely deviant unless it's hockey. Sorry. I went to high school with a lot of one of the schools with a hockey academy. I won't say which one, although it rhymes with St. Francis Xavier. I can never unsee that as a deviant subculture. Hockey boys, I can never unsee that because they were weird. And they did weird things and they treated people in weird ways. Sometimes. Sometimes deviant countercultures aren't looking to overthrow social norms. Countercultures always are. But you're not far off. Are furries a subculture? Definitely. And probably, okay. So I will say a lot of people especially see furries as a deviant subculture, especially around sexuality, because apparently there are some weird furry sex practices. But we won't go into that because I thoroughly don't want to traumatize you more than I have to. Okay. Are they in denial just because they don't want to accept that they're the bad guys? Yeah, basically. No one ever wants to accept that they're the bad guys. I will say, no one, I think very rarely are people, actually going to be like, it's this British sketch. Are we the baddies, right? It's basically that, right? No one ever thinks that they're wrong. Like, I guarantee you the Soviets didn't think they were wrong as they were killing millions of their own people. The Nazis probably thought they were right. And every group that we would define as evil probably all thought they were doing good things. Because that's just how it goes. People never see their own actions for being evil, right? What other musicals? Okay, I will tell you what I don't like is Andrew Lloyd Webber. Phantom is a terrible musical, and you can never convince me that's not true. Only because he wrote it literally so that his girlfriend at the time, who later became his mistress, who later became his wife, could have a role. Her name's Sarah Brightman, and she's way overrated. No, she's just hard on herself. She's sweet. We're the baddies in it. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, joking aside, Megamind wanted to be the bad guy. All right. Okay. Hooligans. Okay. I'm just trying to clear fake questions and get to the real ones. I've let the Slido go too far. Okay. I'll explain it very quickly because it should be pretty simple. The difference between institutionalized means is how you get something, right? What is the way the culture tells you you should get the cultural goals, right? So it is, like normal institutionalized means is work hard, go to school, get married, stay married, have kids, right? That's the normal way that society tells you should go through life. It's institutionalized because all the institutions kind of favor it. The cultural goals is what do most people think you should want to get out of life, right? You should want to get rich. You should want to have a nice lifestyle, right? You should want money and material possessions. Those are typically the cultural goals. And certain things of like status as well. So yeah, institutional means, how do you get those things, right? You go to school, you work hard, right? That would be the institutionalized means. What are the cultural goals? Everything that people want out of culture. All right. How much time do I have left? 7 minutes. You can't leave yet. You did anyway. My warning was useless. Okay. So, pardon me. The dry air is killing me. So, functionalists, right? So, the relationship between crime and class. One of the conflict theory criticisms of functionalism is that it tends to exaggerate the link between crime and class, right? Functionalists will tend to see crime as happening principally in the lower classes, right? In those that are poor, right? So like you look at Merton's strain theory, right? It's like you're much more likely to commit crimes, if you are poor and you're still seeking after those cultural goals, right? You're still wanting wealth and material and power, right? So you might commit crimes if you don't have another means of doing so, right? So it's typically, it'll view things as coming from that kind of lower echelon socioeconomically of society. But, what we know from self-report surveys is that there's a weak tendency for criminals to come from disproportionately lower classes. Crime is actually fairly evenly distributed across social classes, although the types of crime that people commit are greatly varied from class to class, right? There's not as many wealthy people selling drugs as there are poor people, but they commit different kinds of crimes. Okay. All right. So, conflict theory. I got 5 minutes. So conflict theory. Basically, conflict theory, again, is always kind of thinking about class, right? Especially in its kind of classical Marxist sort of lens. It's always thinking about class and the differences between classes, right? So one of the things that conflict theorists, and again, sort of following Gramsci a little bit here, will say is that basically the rich and powerful in society impose kind of deviant and criminal labels on other parts of society, especially those lower classes, and basically say, okay, those things that you're doing that violate the rules that we want, those things are deviant and criminal, but the things that we do are not, right? That basically the rich and powerful get to define what is legal, what's illegal, what's deviant, and what isn't, because they control sort of the cultural means of diffusing ideas, right? So that's that idea of cultural hegemony, right? The powerful are the one who sort of write the rules and make everything common sense. So, that's why For instance, street level crimes almost inevitably, assaults, murders, thefts, almost inevitably land you in prison, whereas white collar crimes, things like embezzlement, are much more likely to be gently policed, right? And the people who are, say, convicted of embezzlement or fraud or computer crimes are much more likely to be white collar or middle and upper class, and therefore much more likely to get prison sentences in like minimum security facilities. Whereas if you commit a street level crime, you're much more likely to get sent to a maximum security facility. This is the kind of conflict theory argument, right? The powerful define their crimes as less serious because they're powerful, right? So the things they might do that would defraud people out of money might be illegal or not even illegal, right? They might actually make things legal that actually are bad for a lot of society. And you can look at like the financial system. Maybe this is where the finance bros come in, right? Where they create these kinds of weird insurance schemes that they split people's mortgages up, and they get rich while the people that bought those mortgages lose their house and lose everything and maybe are put into poverty. Or like I always think about the CEO of Sears, right? This is my favorite example of the rich and powerful getting their way and everyone else gets screwed over. But Sears Canada, he drove Sears Canada into the ground, right? And basically destroyed the company, bankrupted it. And what did he get? A multi-million-dollar what they call a golden parachute or exit package. And my aunt who worked at Sears her entire life got her pension cut because he had taken some of the funds out of the pension fund. So that wasn't criminal apparently. That got you $1 million, buyout package. But if I went and stole $1 million, I would probably end up, well, maybe I'm white collar. If, I don't know, maybe professors, it would be okay. I don't know. But let's say I was low, working class. That would probably be a problem that would land me in prison, right? So power and privilege, commonly used to perpetuate that privilege, right? The privileged stay privileged because they get to write the rules, and they use their power to avoid being defined as criminals, right? Because they end up in government, they end up as lobbyists, and they end up setting the rules. All right, since I hear the chairs a squeaking and the feet a moving, let's talk more conflict theory next time. We'll start with control theory and Travis Hershey. All right, see you on Wednesday. We should be in range to finish this Wednesday, I think. Oh, definitely. Okay, we'll finish Deviants on Wednesday. Hello.
Last time I asked about I actually sent an email to you on the last Saturday.
Like just 2 days ago, or?
No, last Thursday.
Okay, I might have just missed it. Hang on, I'm gonna turn this off so not everyone can hear me. I just switch off my